Half-Life 2 got a few DLC expansions following its initial release, the most notable of which being Episode 1 and Episode 2, released in 2006 and 2007 respectively. That's pretty much all you need to know, so let's jump right in. So why is it called Episode 1? Wouldn't that just be Half-Life 2? Or is that Episode 0? Is Valve using programmer logic? You know what, that's probably it. Look, I like Valve and all, but you just know there's at least one Linux bro on the team trying to convince his grandma to switch to Ubuntu. I bet it's his fault. Half-Life 2, Episode 1, begins right where we left off in the base game, with this dreamlike sequence that— Tisk tisk, another plot summary video! What? No, that's not— For shame to be disgraced with such slop in the year of our Lord 2026. Dude, I'm just setting up context. I must write a long and pretentious comment about this henceforth, lest my time be wasted by this egregious violation of the sacred art of objective critique. This truly is the metastasis of the internet. After our bad trip with G-Man and the Vortigons, we wake up buried in rubble. Alex and her Zuzu pet help us out and return the gravity gun, which is back to being wimpy and orange because Gaben hates me. Now you might be wondering what our goal is, since we already blew up Stalin back in the base game. But remember, we're playing Half-Life 2, so the answer is obvious. We have to fucking find Eli Vance again.
If we found a way into the Citadel, it's possible we could—
Alex, no!
To make a long story short, before that British guy responds, Alex and Gordon have to go back into the Citadel to stabilize the core, since it's about to blow up or whatever. This setup is nothing crazy, but it's enough to get things going, and it segues nicely into the first level. The Citadel was already great in the base game, and that legacy continues here, despite not being as much of a power trip. It makes excellent use of the gravity gun, not only for moment-to-moment gameplay, but also for some genuine bona fide puzzles. At times it feels like Portal with how clever some of these are and how they keep evolving with each new area. I wonder if this planted the seeds for that game. And hey, what do you know, it looks like Gaben doesn't hate me after all, because we even get some time with the methed up gravity gun. Still don't get to keep it though. Literally 1984. And my gosh, dude, I thought Half-Life 2 couldn't look any more beautiful, but this level demonstrates how Valve can always push the envelope a little further, even in the span of just a couple of years. The fantastic art direction is definitely a big part of it, and that was true for the base game as well, but the actual rendering tech is nothing to scoff at either, especially for the time. In 2006, you were lucky to get a game this pretty to run at all on an Xbox 360 or PS Triple. Hell, this very game pushed those consoles to their limits just a year later. Anyway, after Gordon delays our impending doom and Alex download some top secret info to our iPod, we safely escape the Citadel, take a train ride with these things I hate them, and arrive at City 17 again. Is this City 17? I don't know, man, these maps kind of blend together after a while. Well, in terms of visuals. When it comes to the level design though, this part of the game is excellent. Okay, so remember how I criticized the limited sprint and the fact that both it and the flashlight use the same meter? Well, you're never gonna believe this, but they actually made it work here. I'm not kidding. These pitch black rooms swarming with enemies are a perfect match for this mechanic. I think what the base game's auxiliary power was really missing was any form of tension. The game failed to encourage strategic use of the sprint and flashlight, since both were pretty much just glorified quality of life features. Running out of auxiliary power usually didn't put you in any real danger. But in Episode 1, you need that flashlight, and you won't have it if you're carelessly sprinting everywhere. What was once an occasional nuisance is now an actual resource that you have to manage carefully in order to stay alive. As you can see, I suck at this. But that's fine, because now the game actually punishes me for my shitty gameplay, which means I have to engage with the mechanic and improve my skills if I want to overcome this section. This is gameplay. Real gameplay. And because there's tension and actual challenge this time, it's really fun. Huge props to the developers for redeeming a mechanic that I thought was dead in the water. I love you, Valve.
Combine zombie. That's like a zombine, right?
I hate you, Valve. Sandwiched between two of these darkroom sections is this parking garage infested with antlions, and it's another example of Half-Life 2's ingenious puzzle design. Okay, so there's this hole that the antlions keep coming out of, right? And no matter how many you kill, they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming. The game doesn't tell you what to do in this part at all. You have to figure out a solution by your lonesome. And so the gears in my brain began to turn, all 0 of them. Almost instinctively, I tried pushing a car into one of the holes. Now, obviously that wasn't actually going to work, because that doesn't feel like something a game would.
Good idea. No, I wouldn't have thought You could plug up the burrow that way.
No freaking way. I love this so much from a game design perspective, because while it is the developer's intended solution to the problem, it still feels like you came up with it. In a game with physics like this, most players are bound to experiment with them, and this short micro puzzle exploits that fact so elegantly. In any other game, this would be the first thing you try, but the actual solution is to find a button and push it. But here, the first thing you try is the actual solution. I know it's a small part of the game, but hey, it comes back multiple times, so ha! Checkmate, loser. I'm smart and you're dumb. Look at this Wojak I drew. That shows how dumb you are and how smart I am. Yeah, that's right. Wallow in your own shame. Sorry. Before we go on any further, I suppose I should mention that this video is going to be pretty spoilery from here on out. The story is a central component of these episodes, even more so than the base game, so I can't really avoid mentioning some of the bigger moments and reveals for context. So if you're at all interested in playing these, turn off this video and just do it already. Both episodes are included for free with the base game these days, so there's really no excuse.
Well, I never.
Are you actually kidding me?
Such appalling behavior from a creator who claims this video to be an objective review of the game.
Okay, I never said that, and you
How
know
can you claim this video to be a review? What reviewer dares spoil the game without giving any warning at all? This is the worst video I have ever seen. I must make a post on Reddit complaining about this post-haste. Mayhaps with enough diligence, I could convince the wider populace to instead watch my objectively superior videos, such as Call of Duty Epic Clips 3 and AI Squidward sings the Russian national anthem.
After a quick romp through the streets, we seek shelter with some fellow resistance members and let's go! Barney's leading an effort to evacuate as many citizens as possible, so Alex gets the bright idea of using Gordon as a distraction for the cop. Hey, what the hell, dude? And Barney's cool with it too? Man, some friend you are. I can't believe... Okay, I forgive you.
She's waiting for you, you lucky dog, you.
A zombine, right?
I'm not sure how this helps though. All we do in this section is shoot up a building full of Combine soldiers for a few minutes and then we meet back up with Barney and the citizens anyway. I thought we were supposed to be the distraction while Barney does the evacuation. I don't know, maybe I missed something. I guess there's no way to know for sure. It'll have to remain a mystery. And so begins what's probably my least favorite part of this episode. You know how some games have escort missions where you have to take an NPC to a certain location? And you know how nobody in the universe actually likes those? Okay, so imagine that, but you have to do it several times over while backtracking across the exact same map with Combine soldiers gunning you down. Yeah, that sounds like fun, right? Thankfully, this section isn't that long. It took me about 15 minutes, but it felt way longer because of how boring it was. To my relief though, what follows is a pretty cool escape sequence that acts as a finale for the episode, where you have to dodge and weave while taking out Striders and just generally be the badass that Gordon Freeman is. And then the Citadel blows up.
Oh my god.
That brings us to Half-Life 2 Episode 2, one of the worst names ever conceived by mankind, right up there with Octopath Traveler and Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue and Spontman. Thankfully, the actual content of the episode makes up for the egregious name, though we do have to sit through this recap first. Holy bitrate, Batman, am I playing a video game or watching a YouTube video from 2005? Anyway, now we're in the actual game, so we can finally talk about— wait, my weapons are gone again? Well, at least I still have my gravity gun. My wimpy orange piece of shit gravity gun. Man, this view is gorgeous. I know I already talked about this with episode 1, but it still blows my mind how Valve managed to keep outdoing themselves within just a few years. So after some wandering, we find a little shack with a radio transmitter where we get into contact with Eli, Dr. Kleiner, and a new character, Dr. Magnuson. They tell us to head to White Forest, so we— wait, White Forest? That's like the place in Sonic and— oh wait, that's White Jungle. Damn, Gaben hates Sonic? I didn't know he was based like that. Anyway, with our goal in mind, we begin our journey to Green Forest. White Forest, f***ing damn it. Of course, our journey is quickly sidetracked when, in traditional Half-Life fashion, something goes catastrophically wrong. Oof, that's gotta hurt. Oh hey man, what's good? Our Vortigaunt buddy here tells us that he and his brethren can revive the Alex Vance, so we follow him underground where— Valve, just Why? Because apparently the one free man is also the ultimate klutz on weekends. We now have to deal with a swarm of antlions while the Vortigaunts perform their healing ritual. This section is pretty fun though. There were some turret sections in the base game too, but this one takes the mechanic to its logical conclusion, with multiple entryways that we have to defend FNAF style, along with these guys who channel Half-Life 1 energy with how funny their dialogue is.
I think we misunderestimated!
But even after all that, we're still not done with the antlions, because even though backup has arrived, it's still not enough to revive Alex. So we have to venture into the nest to collect some magical whatever stuff from the antlion guard, not the antlion queen. I'm sorry, I messed up. Please never forgive me for this. Most of this section is just good old-fashioned Half-Life gameplay, but the tension ramps up towards the end once we reach the antlion guard itself. This section is awesome. Most encounters in the Half-Life games involve killing the threat, but here we need it alive, so it's more about evasion this time. This part is straight up horror gameplay, and it's executed very well. Now that we've obtained the MacGuffin juice, we reunite with the Vortigaunts and revive Alex, but not before G-Man rambles to us about unforeseen consequences. The next hour or so of gameplay is spent traveling to White Forest, and while I don't have a lot to say about this part, what I will say is 1, I'm glad they got some more use out of the driving mechanics, and 2, damn are some of these encounters hard, but not the frustrating kind. What I mean is that they're sexy. These are very well designed. I especially like this one where you have to sneak around a junkyard while avoiding a deadly turret. It forced me to put on my thinking cap to a degree I haven't really seen since the first game. It's neat. At long last, we've reached White Forest, where we reunite with Eli and Dr. Kleiner and finally meet Dr. Magnuson in person, and he's just a peach.
The data, people, the data! Kleiner, are you going to sync up the satellite, or should I postpone the launch to make time for a family reunion?
I was just saying hello to Alex and Gordon.
Oh, fine. No one grants me a moment's peace, but by all means, unroll the red carpet.
Never mind him.
The Resistance is preparing to launch a rocket to transmit the data we found at the Citadel earlier, as apparently this will somehow close the Combine portal. I don't know, man, it's a video game. But those plans are halted when an army of Striders invades the base, and this is hands down one of the coolest parts of this episode. Dr. Magnuson shows us his brilliant invention, the Magnuson device, which has an oddly specific purpose of blowing up Striders and only Striders. It won't work on anything else. I don't know, man, it's a video game. And since we're the main character of this video game, Magnuson puts us in charge of defending the base.
Oh, and Freeman, if you pull this off, I might just forgive you for that debacle at Black Mesa. You know the one I mean, involving a certain microwave casserole.
Okay, that's actually great.
Stop f***ing with the microwave.
Anyway, like I said, this section is pure adrenaline. Striders are coming in from all sides as we drive around and take them down, with these assholes trying to intercept. It's just the right amount of challenge and intensity, elevated even further by the awesome music, as is typical with this franchise.
I feel compelled to thank you personally for saving my rocket. So, thank you. Well, that's enough chit-chat. I've got a rocket to launch.
Wow. A Zombine, right?
Now, I know I've already given a spoiler warning, but whoa, this one's a doozy. So if you've made it this far and still haven't taken my advice, go play the f***ing episodes already. I'm sorry, that was really uncalled for. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry, that was really mean. The Resistance successfully launches the rocket after Gordon fends off the Striders, but we're not done just yet. See, I neglected to mention earlier that the Combine's homework folder not only contained a recipe for portal destruction, but also a transmission from Dr. Mossman, who I also neglected to mention had a change of heart at the end of the base game.
Ooh.
So our next mission is to head out to the Borealis, the ship where the transmission supposedly came from. Eli sees us off, and what the he's dead. That's... Wait. What? No, that can't be it. There has to be more. That's it? That's where Valve left this series? No wonder people want Half-Life 3 so bad. What the hell? What the hell, man? Just... what the hell? In the Half-Life 2 20th anniversary documentary, Valve revealed that Episode 3 did enter development soon after the second one, but they couldn't settle on a direction that satisfied the team, and just a few months later, the project was shelved. The Half-Life series would lie dormant until 2020 with the release of the VR game. Half-Life Alyx. There have been rumors lately about a potential new entry in the main series, based on references to a mysterious HLX in the SDK for Source 2, but I'm far from qualified to verify any of that stuff. That doesn't mean we don't know where the story could have gone after Episode 2, though. Back in 2017, the original writer for Half-Life 2, Mark Laidlaw, posted Epistle 3, a brief plot synopsis of what he had come up with for the ill-fated episode, albeit with the name swapped out, presumably for copyright.
Filthy wanker, how are you alive? Why must you insist on this incessant plot summary? Must we languish much longer under your pitiful lack of intellect? For shame, I say, for shame. How I weep for Generation Z with your TikToks and Instagrams. Truly, the apple has fallen far from the...
That ought to do it.
Contrary to what the British guy might have thought, I actually didn't read Epistle 3. In fact, I don't think I ever will. If Valve ever continues this story, whether it takes the form of Laidlaw's concept or a different plot altogether, I don't want my expectations to be influenced by something the public was never meant to see. Even Mark Laidlaw regretted publishing the story, eventually taking it down from his website. Instead of ruminating over what could have been, I'd rather see what Valve can come up with in the modern day. Episode 3 may be in the past, but that doesn't mean Half-Life can't have a future. Valve just needs to pick up that crowbar and give it one last swing. Thank you guys so much for supporting these videos. I'm far from done with the Half-Life series, what with Blue Shift and Opposing Force and Black Mesa still on the table, but I think I need a break. I have a lot of other games I want to talk about, and I figure Episode 2 is as good a place as any to leave the bookmark for now. Like I said though, this won't be the last you'll hear from me about Half-Life, so I hope you'll consider sticking around. But either way, stay tuned, thanks for watching, and as always, enjoy life.